Hello, welcome to my live. I just wanted to get on here today to talk about my last video. How I quit my job from the New York Times to follow God's purpose. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I mean, yesterday, it was like a whole thing when I quit. Not like an HR thing, kind of like an HR thing. So yeah, I didn't really want to quit yesterday. I thought that I was going to have a little bit more time to decide, but events happened like they did. And so I did end up quitting yesterday, and like I kept trying to like pinpoint like one thing or another, like, oh, it was this or it was that or it was that, but it really truly was just boiling down to the fact that I knew that God was telling me to do more. Hi, Command. I'm just talking about how I quit my job yesterday at the New York Times to follow God's prompting and doing more with my life. And it's now I'm like waking up today and I'm kind of like hit in the face with, okay, what is that? What does that mean now? Like, okay, I did what God said, and I, quit my job in pursuit of something deeper, something more meaningful, something where I was actually living my purpose, sharing His word, sharing the gospel, and like truly helping people is kind of where I've always been called to. But the New York Times was just like a secure job. It had security, like career progression. It had all the things, but the morals and the values and the company just weren't it. And so after quitting yesterday, which I didn't even know like yesterday I was going to quit, I thought I was going to have like a little bit more time, which now today I'm realizing like, oh shoot, like I actually did quit. Now what? So if you ever like quit a job or done something crazy, like not crazy, but faithful, like took that big leap of faith, what comes after? So I'm a new Christian. I was just saved this year in July. I'm 36 years old, so I just started reading my Bible in July. So everything is new. I've gotten through the New Testament. I'm in the Old Testament now. So like leaning into God so much now, like I just feel Him every day. And I feel like every day I wake up and I'm like, please, Lord, don't let me lose this hunger. Like that's the biggest thing for me. And so these big leaps of faith where I'm like stepping into what I know He's calling me to do, they're so hard and scary. And I'm just like, okay, what now? Like, I know God's calling me to do something more and help people. At the New York Times, I worked in marketing, and I've done marketing for other big businesses like U-Haul and TurboTax. Now the New York Times, I've been there a few years. And so this all comes so easy to me, like marketing, branding, strategizing, analysis. But I never knew that I could like use a platform like TikTok or Instagram, social media, to like actually help people do it or help myself build something. And so I've kind of just been led down this path of like, okay, you can help people from this app. Like you can do this for the little guys at the bottom, offer God's glory. You don't have to do it, compromising your morals in a big company like the New York Times just to have that security. But that, of course, comes with like trusting God and trusting that this is where He's leading me. Like, yes, He will provide. I think it was yesterday after I quit and everything, I was talking to my husband and I'm like, well, He's never not fed us. Like He's never not clothed us. God has never not provided us shelter. We've always been safe with Him. And so like His track record is 100%, right? So, but still, even saying all that, like it just, like, how do you just step into that trust? So like all you in here watching, like, okay, if you're a baby Christian or, you're a seasoned Christian, what does that look like for you? Like when you take those big leaps of faith, like knowing that it's God leading you there, what now? Like what comes next? Like how do you maneuver that and sit in that? Because I feel like my trust it's going in and out, like yesterday on the phone with HR at the New York Times, and it was a big deal. It wasn't just something small, like, leading up to the me quitting, but I just felt like, stop compromising. I kept feeling that in my soul. Like, I felt like God tugging at me, like, what you need to do. And I was like trying to, look at my finances and look at my, okay, could I quit and be comfortable? How much time would I have? But in the end, all of that didn't even matter. Like, I kept running the numbers, and even though I felt confident, like, okay, you can financially be all right for this many months or whatever, it still was hard, even though the facts were there, to be like, I am quitting to follow what I'm feeling called by God to do. And I don't know if that's just because, I'm a newer Christian, and that's the thing too. Like, I've had a religion my whole life. Like, I was baptized Catholic, but I never had that relationship with God until July of this year. And so, like, I've always, like, in those hard moments of my life, I've prayed to God and I've tried to follow my religion somewhat, but it wasn't until July that I had that moment, that testimony moment. And I was saved. I was living in Hawaii, and so I was baptized in the ocean, which was beautiful. So I was baptized, and then started reading my Bible at 36 years old, and now, like, again, I feel new on everything. Like, even though I've known God and I did have a religion before, and being a Catholic, but now it's like, it's so different. Like, my eyes are open, like my ears hear differently, like, everything just consumption wise is different. All I want to do is talk about his word and God and Jesus, like, all day long to everybody. Everything's just changing, but again, it's these big life changes, because it was easier to, like, change my music or start changing who I follow or what I consume as far as entertainment and things like that. Like, that was the easy part, or easier part. But it's like these big life changes of, like, actually, like, you're actually quitting your job at the New York Times to follow what you feel is your purpose from God. Like, that is it's a big life moment. And so sitting in this new moment and trying to figure out, like, what now? What do I do now with that? I would really love anybody's suggestions, or, like, what you've gone through, or what's something big in your life. I am also, like, a military family. My husband just retired after 29 years of service in the Army. So everything has been new this year, like me following Christ, my husband retiring, and us finally not having to move every 2 years, like, a complete lifestyle change. And within all of that, having to move every 2 years, like, a complete lifestyle change. And within all of that, like, I feel like on our whole family. But I never felt like, okay, like, in all of these changes, I did feel that trust, and I did see God in so many ways, like, guiding us to exactly where we needed to be. And so I know what he looks like, and I know what he feels like, and I know what he sounds like in my heart. So when he was telling me, this job isn't it, like, you're meant for more, you're meant to help people. And I got, like, on a live with this one content creator, and she was talking about how things come easy to us, and we feel like it comes easy to everybody. But those are the things, like, that's when you start to lean into, like, your purpose and start to find, like, what your true purpose and passion is, and how you can use that to help other people. And so I'm like, I feel it. I know that this is God calling me, and I know maybe it does have to do with, like, marketing and branding and what I did at the New York Times. Maybe I use that instead of helping a big company, again, a company that I don't really align with anymore. Instead of helping a big company with all of those successes, maybe I help other people, like, the average person. Like, I see so many people on here, like, moms and young students, retired people, like even, you know, I mean, just everybody, right? Everybody on here, and they all have something. Like I find myself going through people's contents that only have like 1,000 followers or below, like even a 500 followers. And I just like see such potential in them. And I find myself like looking through their page and going like, oh, they should do this. And they could totally like monetize or this, or they could make this a lifestyle. Like they could be so successful if they just did this and this and this. So I'm starting to like feel the call of like, maybe that's how I am supposed to be helping people, is getting on this app and like guiding them, helping them see what I see that comes so easily for me to see, that I saw, like I literally was working for the New York Times and getting paid to do this for them. Like, why can't I just do it for other people, and really lean into God's purpose with it, God's glory with it. Again, quitting the New York Times yesterday was such a big moment in my faith walk. Following what God told me to do, hearing him say, like, this isn't it. This isn't it. So stop, trying to make excuses on why you should continue here when you're being called for more. Like I felt him for so long telling me that, and I was so scared to actually do it. But yesterday, when I did actually quit my job at the New York Times that I've had for a few years now, and I knew like this is such a big faith step. But today, waking up and with the realization of, oh my goodness, I quit my job yesterday at the New York Times to pursue God's calling for me, what I feel is his calling for me. But now what? Now what happens? Like, what's the first step? I feel like with a 9-to-5 job, you have those, okay, you have orientation, you kind of have that schedule and that plan. And this is really the first time in my life that I'm kind of flying blind here. Oh, I saw this like crazy post that was saying like, you drive in a car without being the driver, you fly in a plane without being the pilot, yet then it's hard for you to trust God to maneuver your life. And I was like, oh, like that hit me in the face. Like, I know I needed that one today, which was yesterday. But I feel, a little uneasy about what is the plan. And now this new walk in faith of, you know what, you don't have to know the plan. All you have to know is God's got you. And that, sit in that confidence that I heard him. Like I was being led by him so much, and yesterday before I quit my job at the New York Times, I was again crunching the numbers and looking at my finances and trying to really find something logistical that was gonna bring me this sort of sense of safety. Like, you can totally quit because ... like the numbers add up, or financially you'll be okay until so-and-so time, and that gives you this much to, draw a plan of what your next step is. But even as I was crunching those numbers and kind of holding off on that one phone call that I knew was coming, I just felt him. Like, I felt God saying, and everything that I was doing yesterday to try to prep and try to get some logistical, confirmation of how I could quit or why I could quit and why it was safe. Oh, my husband's coming home. I just felt God on me yesterday. Like, the answer. That this is what you need to do. Like, why are you doing these numbers? Why are you trying to find those logistical ways, those, safe holds, I guess, when I am the safe hold? Like, I am the reason why you're going to be safe. Again, all this is so new to me, and I love it. I do love it, but it is scary. It's kind of like a roller coaster, to me. And I love it. I do love it, but it is scary. It's kind of like a roller coaster, like you love being on the roller coasters, although you're like super, scared and you have all this adrenaline while you're on the roller coaster, and it is scary. But at the end of the ride, it's like, that was so fun. Like, let's do it again. So I don't know. I feel like maybe that's where I am today, is I'm on the roller coaster and I'm like, okay, this is fun, but it's a little scary, and I know I'm going to enjoy it at the end, and that trust of it's going to be great, because it's God, like nothing in my life that he's done has never been top notch. Everything that he's done and given me, amazing. It's never not been great. And so, yeah, but that big life step of quitting your job that you have so much security in, that I could have had a great career in, career progression. I could have, done things that I feel like maybe it's an American culture thing as well. Like, and I did have a talk with a friend about that too. Like, maybe the job of, oh, I work for the New York Times. Like, that meant more to me and held more, like, I don't know, like it just held more to it than actually what I was doing there. And it just wasn't working for me anymore. Like, I couldn't see any God in my job at the New York Times. I couldn't see any of his word or anything in what I was doing. And I wasn't writing, for those that are just joining, yesterday I quit my job at the New York Times. I worked in marketing, but I quit my job because God was just calling me to do more and really weighing on my heart that I have more to give in his name and in his glory than I could have ever given at that job. Mind you, it was a great job. Again, it was good for like a career type job, and stability was the biggest thing. Is I had stability in that job, but I just couldn't. Like, I need to be fed by him every single day, and I need to make sure that every day I'm living, trying to spread his glory, his word, and live in the purpose that he has for me. Not that something that is out here not worth doing, so yeah, I took that leap of faith and I quit yesterday. And now today I'm just like, what now? Like, what do I do now? And again, I've seen so many, like, I've been on this app maybe about a month now, like posting and making videos and really just trying to build a community on my page. And I've found the best people. I know, like, some people don't have good experiences with TikTok, but it's such a great tool. And I feel like it builds so much community. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten a little hate here and there, but nothing compared to the love and the support. And it's so beautiful. I just see God so much on this app. And I think that that's also what's feeding me into maybe using this app to start that, that journey of helping people through God's glory in what I do. And of course, my talent is in marketing and branding and analytics and, planning and strategy, marketing strategy and stuff. So I've seen like so many pages on here, and I'll go to their page and of content creators, and I'm like just scrolling through, and I can see so much potential in them and in their content. And so I'm like scrolling through their content, and I'm like, oh, they could build a brand on this, or build a business on this, or they could take this and really run with it. Like, oh, I wish, why aren't they doing that? But then I started to come to the realization with the help of another creator, like, not everybody knows that. Not everybody has those talents that, I may have in marketing and in strategizing and in branding to know how to get there. And so I'm like, maybe that's where I'll start, is like start helping people, how to learn how to brand themselves, to learn how to market themselves, to learn some strategies that I used for the New York Times. And I mean, like, if the New York Times was paying me for this, I feel like, okay, girl, like, I had to talk to myself. Like, you're obviously good at your job if a company like the New York Times is hiring you to do this. So I need to also work on my own confidence in my God-given abilities to help people, and it doesn't have to be under a big umbrella company name like the New York Times. Like, it could be just me, Stevie, out here trying to do God's work and spread God's glory and help, the people that are just beginning. And that's where I really thrive too, is like, I love working one-on-one with people and, small companies and brands. Like, I've done side work with nonprofits. I worked for Indigenous Peoples Movement. I am Indigenous myself, and that's a nonprofit. And, I did branding and marketing for them, and their platform is huge and beautiful. And just to know that I had a hand in that, really just, feeds my soul. And I loved it. And I loved that work. And it was hard and long, and doing it on the side of, working for the New York Times was kind of chaotic, but I loved it so much that it never, made me feel drained. And I also did, other small nonprofits. I worked for a nonprofit, Horses Unlimited, out in El Paso when my husband was stationed over there. So, I mean, quitting my job at the New York Times to follow God's purpose is huge. It is huge. But again, I feel like if the New York Times paid me for that type of work, then I had to have had some kind of talent and direction in what I do. So I think that's definitely, even though today I'm like, okay, what now? What do I do? Where am I going from here? Like, God, please don't leave me. Like, you led me to quit yesterday, and I followed your lead, and I took that leap of faith. But now today, like, please don't leave me. Like, please help me and guide me on where I need to go from here. And I feel like also maybe that's a baby Christian mindset, which all of y'all, watching, if you're a little more seasoned Christian and you have a little bit more experience taking these huge leaps of faith, like, please comment on, what do I do from now? What's something that helps you stay in that trust when you do take that leap of faith? And yeah, I'd appreciate any help or whatever. But I think that, I know that this is exactly where I need to be. Although I woke up this morning thinking, like, now what? And I do have a little bit of that, that doubt coming in and out. I'm trying to firmly stand in God's, grace for me and remind myself that I saw him so much yesterday before I actually did quit my job. Like, there were so many moments where I'm like, I hear you, God. I know this isn't where I'm supposed to be at this job, and I know that you're calling me to do more, and I feel it, and I want to be obedient. Like, Lord, just, lead me to that obedience. Like, keep me hungry for you is something that I say multiple times every day. And so, yeah, I know that's there, but the enemy's always going to be whispering in our ear and filling, trying to fill us with doubt. So I have that too today, day one of no job. And it's been a while since I haven't had a job or a career. So there's that. My husband just retired from the military after 29 years of service too. So it's such a lifestyle change in our entire household going on right now. Like, both of us are in this huge transition, and I'm just leaning into God. And again, like, God has been in our lives so loud throughout this year, through this transition, through my husband's transition out of the military. God's guided us to where we needed to be for the next maybe year or two. We've always moved, like, every 2 to 3 years for the last, my husband's been in for 29 years. We've been together 20 years. So we've always moved every couple of years. So now, like, getting to decide where we actually live, God's hand was really placed on us during all of that transition. So I've got to see his beauty in his guidance in our lives. But, me quitting the New York Times job, and, for the reason being, again, there's a lot of little, reasonings, behind it. But the biggest one was God's calling me for more. Like, I can't be complacent in this job anymore, in this company that doesn't align with what I'm feeling called to do. Again, working at the New York Times, I did good work in marketing and, did good work for a good career, for that stability, for that career progression. But there wasn't any God in it for me. Like, I couldn't see that I was doing God's work or doing it for God's glory. Like, there just wasn't. And I didn't want to spend my life like that anymore. Like, after God saved me the way he did, I literally had a life-altering experience for the past 2 years. Chronic illness, and it just crazy. I'll talk about that in another live. But literally feeling like my body was failing me, and the medical system was failing me, and everyone was failing me, led me to God. Like, God literally had to remove everything in my life so that I could turn around and see him. I was one of them hard-headed ones, He literally had to snatch me up out of my life because I was so blinded by everything else, trying to save myself through everything else except God. that yeah, he had to clear it out. He had to clean house in my life. And like, to be so chosen like that, to be so seen by him, it gives me like the giggles and, just all these great feelings, because I'm like, God literally was choosing me, picking me, like specifically spending time with me in my life, molding, clearing things out just so that I could turn around and be like, oh God, that's you. And now I know I need to be with you. Now I know I need to come to you. Now I know I need to build this relationship with you. So after he's done all that work just to get me to him, there's no way that I'm going to spend the rest of my days not following what he has for me. But I didn't know that it was going to include quitting my job at the New York Times. So there's that. But again, I have to keep going, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep fighting the enemy as he's bringing me these doubts. And I'm going to lean into, this is God's purpose for me. Can you pray for what I'm going through? I'm so heartbroken. Okay, Night. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if your gender, but let's just pray that Night, that they get through this day. Handle one minute at a time. Like, dear Lord, sit with Night right now, this user Night, and be with them. Like, fill them with that Holy Spirit, that comfort that you've filled me with before, that I know so well. Fill them with that comfort. Let them know that every step that they take is filled with your glory, with your confidence, with your love, that you got them today. Remind them that you've got them. Because I know sometimes it's so hard to remember that God's got you. God's got you. And look at his track record is what I was sitting with yesterday. Like, God's never not gotten you through everything that you've been through. You've always been safe. So Night, as you're going through today, being heartbroken and whatever that may mean, please know that we're out here. And that's, again, what I love about the TikTok community, is we're out here praying for you, being with you, sending you God's love and glory so you can get through today. And just focus on that. Focus on today. Focus on this minute. Focus on this hour. And just sit in that God's got me. God's got me. Open up his word. That's my favorite thing to do now, is whenever I'm feeling like this world is chaotic, I don't know, if I'm starting my thoughts with, I don't know what to do, or I don't know how to feel, or I don't know, you know what? Go to God's word, because God knows, and he left us a book. Like, he left us a book on how to know. We don't have to know. Us mere humans in our, small-minded humanness, yeah, we're not going to know. We're not going to know. But that's the point. Then you get over to his word and you listen to God's word telling you how to know, how to get through, how to feel, how to maneuver life, how to choose, all of the things. Again, I'm a baby Christian, so take that. But if I am of any help, that's exactly what I want to do, is just continue living in God's word, living in his glory, sharing his word, sharing his glory, sharing everything that he's done for me. And I know that although today is a what now day, like, what do I do now after I quit my job at the New York Times to follow God's purpose for me? I know it's going to come. And I feel that. And I feel that confidence that it's going to come, and I'm so excited to be on this app and see how many people I can help and kind of lean into what that means and be open. Now that I do not have my job at the New York Times, I have so much more availability. I have so much more time and space and energy to really just dive all in. So I think that's where I'm definitely going to start. I've already had some people in my DMs, asking me to help them with their content creation. And I'm so excited. And right now I did have a friend of mine who does content creation as her full-time job. I say friend, she's a new TikTok friend. So, and talking about monetizing and building an online business. And I feel like I'll get to that eventually, but right now I just want to help people. I'm not worried about charging people and all that. And I feel like God will lead me to that when that time has come. But right now, fresh, day one, yesterday, quit my job at the New York Times to follow God's purpose. Today, my purpose is just to spread as much, love and my knowledge as I can to help people in God's glory. So yeah, I'm going to hop off here because my daughter is calling me. But yeah, jump in my DMs. Let me know how I can help you. Let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about your purpose, whatever that means. Let me help you, find that. Again, I did it for the New York Times in marketing. I feel like that means that I do have some talent, some know-how on how to do it. So, just let's connect. Let's build a community. And, give it all to God and God's glory.